Hi everyone, Lori here. I've got a fun challenge for you. Over at the OCC, our Creative Corner, where I'm a design team member, one of our other design team members, Julia, has created a fun challenge for this month of February. I hope that you're going to be able to come over and join in on the fun. Let me explain a little bit of how this challenge works. She's created this tic-tac-toe type grid for us to work off of for our projects. At the top we have metal, die cuts, embossing powder, paints, stamps, stencils, lace, ribbon, twine, and cord, and you do not have to use all of those, at least one of those in that square, embossing folder, mediums, crackle paint, paste, glaze. The same with this corner. You need to at least use one of these if you choose that part of the grid. So for the challenge, she would like everyone to use stamps in their project. So you may choose to either go across and use paints, stamps, stencils, or you can go this direction and use die cuts, stamps, embossing folders in your project, or go either diagonal, embossing powder, stamps, lace, ribbon, twine, or cord. Of course, like I said, you don't have to use all of those, just at least one of them in your project. Or go diagonal and do the metal stamp mediums in that one. So you have the options of going any direction you would like to add these elements into your projects, as long as you go across the stamps in the center. So for my project, I chose paint, stamps, stencils. And let me show you what I put together. I am putting together this as a book cover. It'll either be a journal or an album, picture album. I haven't decided quite yet. It's going to be a gift. This is a picture of my daughter and my grandson here in the center of it. And all the products that I used on this can be found in my Artfire store while they last. And so there will also be a link down below for that as well. And I forgot to put together some pictures as I went along when I was creating this. So I am going to actually do another tutorial for you. And it's not going to look exactly the same, but hopefully it's going to look close enough that you can see how I created this. And so let me go ahead and get started here and show you what I did, and hope that you will come and join us over in our challenge. We have a great sponsor this month that will be giving out the prize. So make sure you check that link out, and I'll answer any questions I possibly can for you. Now let me get started and show you what I did. I prepped my piece of chipboard with gesso. The gesso just helps the paint and the gels and the sprays adhere a little bit better to the chipboard. You can spray and paint on chipboard directly. It just absorbs in a bit more and changes the color of it. So you can actually do it either way. I just prefer to try it this way. So my gesso is dry on here. It's a thin coat, as you can see, because I kind of like having a little bit of the chipboard and the brush strokes showing through. So I then took a piece of paper out of the romance novel and cut it into some strips. And then I've just tore them at different lengths to start with. So we're going to go ahead and start that first. That'll be the first thing that we lay down. I am using some of the 3D gloss gel. I carry this in my Artfire store. It is a transparent gel that works well as an adhesive. It is very thick, and you're able to use it with your stencils as well to get a little bit of depth and texture to something you're working on. It's great to mix your seed beads in with, or your glass glitter, or glitter of any kind, actually, microflakes. You can do a lot of different things with the gel. Because it's transparent, whatever you're going to put in it is going to show through. So like if you use some of this and you mix in your seed beads and you put them on, it's going to look kind of white at first, and then it's going to dry clear and you're going to get to see all your seed beads. It does great with glitter as well. So I am going to use this as an adhesive at this point, and then I'm going to use it on my stencils. So we're going to go ahead and get that out there. You can use a brush to do this. You could use a palette knife to do this. It doesn't dry super quick, so you've got some time to kind of move something around if you need to. So I'm going to put it on with a brush here. And then, of course, you could glue your paper down with anything you'd like to. This is handy. I'm learning to use it a lot more. So I'm going to grab that. A little bit more right at the edges. I notice they always seem to kind of roll up a little bit. Alrighty. And we're just going to place this off center. Kind of gives me something to go with. That's what I'm going to start with. Okay, let's get it kind of straight here. There we go. And then just press that down. I'm going to get another piece in here. Try to go a little faster here. Some of the other things that I used on this layout are some flowers by Prima, and it was the, show you here, get that down on there, from the Coffee Break collection. There was some great yellows in here, and that green, of course, and then the large flowers have these beautiful centers in them. These are also in my Artfire store, the Coffee Break collection. That gave me that nice soft yellow to use in that. All right, let's get another one in here. And I just cut them at different lengths and different widths, and then just went ahead and kind of tore them if I needed a little torn edge on there. There you go. Of course, that you can, like I said, you can move that around if it's like not placed the first time you want, or you want it. Gonna get messy fingers here, but that's the fun, right? Yep, that's the fun of it. Okay, let's stick this right about in here. I'm enjoying playing around with my art journal this year. I wanted to do one of those for a while. Kind of fun because you just go in and kind of keep creating as you go along, trying out new things. New things are always fun to do. Let's see, I like the numbers on the end of that, so I'm going to have those out here where they show a little bit more. We'll get a couple more pieces in here and get to the, let's see, how about something right off in here, and then one more piece. I just think this gives it a nice texture at the background, and you are going to see some of the color through the sprays that we're going to use. There we go. So you got this nice thick base to work with. Let me know if I get out of frame. Somebody holler, please. I don't want to get out of frame. No more technical difficulties, I hope, anyway. Okay, so, and actually, What I'm going to do here is actually go ahead and do a little bit of the spraying first. Because the 3D gel that I'm going to use with my masks, I have one from Heidi Swap. I like the little bubbles in this one, and one from the Crafters Workshop. I like this one in here too, and I'm going to put that on. But I'm actually going to put them on with the 3D gel. And of course, because it's going to be translucent afterwards, you're going to be able to see through it. It's better to spray, then do your masking on there, because you can actually go back over with like a baby wipe or a wet cloth and wipe off the little spray that gets on your gel, and it'll show through that way. Okay, we're going to use 4 different colors here. We're going to go with the Faded Jeans by Distress Spray Stain. We're going to do Crushed Olive. This is some of Tim Holt's new sprays. I have some of these in my shop. Evergreen Bough and Tea Dye. The blue in this won't actually, it'll get covered up by a lot of other colors that we're going to work with, so that's why I don't mind using the dark blue in this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a spray off to the side. Here you can get some of the splatters going on. And then we're going to go more into this blue. And if it gets on there a little too heavy, you can always take and wipe some of that back off, just kind of dabbing it. And I start with the darker color and work out to the lighter colors. I want to get some green in here, a little more green up in there and down in this corner. You could leave these puddles on, it wouldn't hurt at all. Just kind of want it to dry a little bit quicker so I don't have to use the glue gun the heat gun so much during my video. Okay, and then we're going to go with the lighter on the outside. Again, you want to dry off some of that. I let a little bit of it soak in and then I start wiping it off a little bit more. And I actually kind of like the way it looks when you actually wipe it like this. Kind of lightens it up. It's going to lighten a little bit more as it dries. A little bit more over this way, a little bit right there. Get just a little bit of splattery look there too. All right, looks like a mess, doesn't it? It's a fun mess. Let me use my gun just a little bit here to give it a quick speed up dry. Cover your ears. There, you see how that lightened that up quite a bit? There you go. And we could even take a little bit of a wet paper towel, or actually I have a baby wipe here. Let me see if I can do that. And you can actually wipe off areas at this point before it gets really dry. If you kind of want to lighten, let's say you got the corners are a little bit more than you wanted, then you're able to start going in and kind of removing some of that. There you go. So you can see how it is right here, where I've actually wiped some of that off back on each of the corners. Let's say, okay, I've wiped off too much right there. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a little spritz again. And if I leave that, I'm going to get those little droplets still left on there. You could take and get a few more by dripping it, if you wanted that kind of look on there. You could even take your spray, water, and kind of spread it out a little bit more, each of those droplets. Lots of texture looking to it. Again, I'm drying up a little bit of it because I don't want it to sit too long. Alrighty, and I'm going to have to run that heat gun just a few seconds more. Get that out of the way for you. Oh, somebody didn't holler, I'm out of frame. Come on, people, keep up. Sorry about that, there's just no other way to get it dried fast enough to work on. Alrighty. So, as you can see, you're going to get a lot of water spotting, which helps add a lot to it. Helps kind of lighten up your outside edges if you want to lighten those up. And see how we're more in the greens and yellows by mixing those colors together. You can't really even tell where that blue was, but it actually gives it a darker green back here in the background. And I like to go around the outside edge with either a black distress ink or a little bit of black gesso just around the very outside edge. And that takes just a little bit of drawing because I do like it, dabbing it on with the gesso. So I'm going to wait and do that towards the end for you. And now we're going to do some masking. Get this out of the way here. Again, I'm going to use my 3D gel. And we're going to go in. Let's see, you know what? I'm going to use it on the bubbles, and I think I'll use gesso for this. Let's do that. Alrighty. Let's get this one in here. Turn it over so that we have it the right direction. There's a 4 on there. We want it going the right direction. There you go. And you're going to take your gesso and a palette knife. I've got some here on my tray. And just make sure you hold this down nice and flat. And it actually kind of looks kind of neat when you don't go all the way over the whole stencil. So there you go, you've got that one there. Let's come up to this opposite corner and let's put in this one here. Let's see if I can get that in there. I think it makes a difference what thickness your gesso is in to get a nice raised look on there. I found out that I really like the Liquitex gesso. This is the thickest I've found out of all the brands that I've used. Just for those who always ask what brand am I using for that. Okay, so we're going to end up having to let that dry. But I'm going to go ahead and do the 3D with my little bubbles. And then I'm going to let it dry and come back in and show you the results. So we're going to get our bubbles going over here in this corner. Just a minute, I got to clean off that palette knife. Should have grabbed an extra one. Alrighty. So we are going to start over in here. This is much thinner, but it can go on thick by just not pressing down too hard on it. And remember, it's going to show that color through when we get done. The other example that I showed you, I had not waited long enough to let it dry, and so I had to kind of go back over it with a little bit of white. Can you see that? Can you see how nice and raised? Let's see if I can get that in the camera for you to see how raised that is. That's what I love about the 3D gel. The 3D gel can add a lot of texture that way. And we want to put some bubbles down here on this corner. Or dots, whatever you want to call them. I need a big dot or bubble stencil. I cannot find the one I had, so I'm going to have to work at getting another one. Alrighty, I am going to leave this here for the moment. I am going to shut off the camera and let this dry, because I think it works better if it dries on its own and not with the heat gun. The gel seems to bubble and not do as well with the heat gun. So I'm going to let this dry. Be back in a moment. Go take a coffee break, everyone. Well, there we are. We're back again. It has dried almost completely. I have also added that black gesso just around the edge like I had talked about. So it is dry also. Now, this is what I wanted to show you about the 3D gloss gel being a transparent gel. I use that stencil with the bubbles, and as you can see, they're a little shiny. It's added some texture, but at certain angles you can't quite even see them because they are translucent. There's one or two here or there that the gel is on a little thicker, so it looks white, but you can actually see, if I can get the camera to do this, the color of the background right through the 3D gel. And so that's what makes that kind of fun, to add some texture to it, and but yet show the color through. So imagine those possibilities. Like I said, say if you just get this at the right angle, you can't quite see those. Then come back around and there they are again. I'm going to see if I can demonstrate that on a piece that I made up here. So I've gessoed, and then I used some sprays, the blue and the yellow, and it kind of blended together to get a green there in the middle. This doesn't have any spray on it. These are almost dry. If they're completely dry, like almost overnight dry, they will be completely clear. You can see these ones actually have started drying clear. This one I actually peeled off. I wanted to see what it looked like underneath there. And it peeled the spray off and revealed the gesso underneath. So that's something new I'm going to play with. Here you can see I put some gesso down, and I do have a thing of those hearts. If I tip it just right, you can see them. They are completely clear, and that way maybe I can demonstrate to you a little bit more about how it works as a resist. So we're going to take our spray. Let's go in with, let's see, something darker. Let's do the, let's see, actually, let's do the Salty Ocean. We haven't used that one yet, so let's use that. And I'm going to show you how it works as a resist. So when you spray on there, and if I was to let that dry, you would be able to see that the gesso is blue underneath there. And then if you were to take your baby wipe or a wet cloth, once this was dry, I guess I should dry it really quick so you can see this. Okay, you can see how it's resisting. Do you see how it's resisting? And if I really wanted to clean those hearts off, all I'd have to use is a baby wipe. And then you've got that gorgeous little heart showing through. And if your background is completely dry when you do this, it won't wipe off your background. Mine's not completely dry, so it's wiping off a little of the background. But you could just run your baby wipe directly or wet cloth over that and take it completely off, because it resists the paint. You would have to leave the, even if you leave, actually from what I've understand, is even if you leave the spray stain on there, you can still wipe it off. Same works with paint. If I was to cover this in a paint, it resists. So let's look at it here, over the ones here. So we get that on there. Let me get a little bit of a paper towel to dry that with. And heat gun it just a little bit so you can see. So if my background was completely dry, look how cool the hearts look on there now. Look as though I had colored them. Well, remember, they're already placed over top of color. So that undercolor is still going to show through. I could wipe this back off. And you're going to see that undercolor, just like we did before I sprayed. So let's say you wanted to go back in and you wanted to change the color of your background without changing the hearts. You could. And let's look and see what it does on bare chipboard. Bare chipboard kind of swells up and absorbs, obviously. It absorbs and kind of swells up. That's another reason for using gesso on there. So if we were to wipe this, then there you go. You can see your little bubbles. We're on chipboard, so that's what's showing through is the chipboard. I hope that helps give you a little bit of an idea why they call it a resist. The soft gels work exactly the same way, and the soft gels can actually be a varnish as well. I've already used up my whole jar of soft gel, got some more coming, so I'll be able to show you that in the next videos. See, I hear our background's starting to dry just a little bit more, so I can wipe those hearts off a little bit more. Does that help kind of explain how the 3D gel works? I hope so. Alright, let's get back to what we were working on before. Move this mess out of the way. Okay, so I am going to go in and show you one more trick with the 3D gel. So it will, as it describes on the back, you can use it to thicken up your paints, or make a customized gel. So by adding paint to it, you're making it super thick. Let's see if I can, I don't know if I can even tip that so you can see. Let me do it this way. Do you see the peak in that? Now imagine that and it hardening. So you could do all kinds of fun projects with that. You could create waves or water droplets or something fun. By adding your acrylic paint to it, you've created a custom gel that you could use through your masks. You could spread it on your canvases, and it's going to hold its shape a lot better. So that's another way to use it. I am going to show you how I used it on this layout. Move that over. I actually used my fingers for this little messy process. And by the way, nobody reminded me to take pictures along the way. So again, technical difficulty. There's not going to be any pictures other than this one you see right here. So I went in and I wanted to kind of highlight some of the edges of that paper and lighten it here and there. So I took this gel that I had made up and went along some of the edges of that. Could even kind of go over the raised gesso imprint there. And if you wanted to, you could touch up the tops of your dots to make them show up. If your finger wasn't as fat as mine. I've used a pencil last time, the edge of a pencil to do that. And if you get too much of that on there, just kind of give it a little bit of a wipe with your baby wipe. I don't know, this was just another fun layer in here. Kind of break up the edges of this. You could use a paintbrush to do it. Of course, you know, a lot of this ends up getting covered up somewhat with your arrangement in the middle. So then I made sure I took a picture that I liked, and this is the one of my grandson and my beautiful daughter, and went ahead and turned them black and white. There you go. And see how you can see down here where I've used some of that paint and gesso? Well, there's also a little bit of shimmer in here. And if this is dry quick enough here, I'll be able to do it. I then used my Rub and Buff. I love this. Sell these in my Artfire store as well. And I just kind of took it in a little bit of that silver. And again, just kind of went and highlighted a little bit of the edges of those strips of paper. There's a couple really neat pins out there that you can use to kind of do the same thing with. I don't happen to have any of them. I did watch them in some of the videos, them use them. But you know, just kind of brings out the outside edges of those strips of paper a little bit. You could, if you wanted to, go over your gessoed See how that brings that out? Whoops, maybe you can't quite tell. There you go. So, and then for the next step, I used some chipboard from Dusty Attic. I still have some of this left also in my shop. This one here, you can see I've used quite a bit out of it. Love these little branches here. I think this one's called Wildflower Number 3. And also, Dusty Attic has a whole set of really great words. I think there's about 4 different types of sheets of these words, and some of them I do carry in my Artfire store. This is Mini Words Number 2, and this is where I took Tender out. I treated these again in the same way. I either spray them, paint them, or use gesso and sprays over them. For Tender on here, all I used was the bare chipboard and used black paint directly over that. I really wanted the word to kind of pop out, and with the black and white photo, I thought that worked real well with that. We're going to do some stamping now. You want to do your stamping at some point here when this is all dry. Feels dry enough here. So I have, and I also carry these as well. These are by Prima. That's that Stamp and Add Butterfly Wing set. Got the moth set and a couple other different types of ones. I like this one. My grandson is very fascinated with dragonflies, so I thought that was perfect. And that's actually what he is looking at while they were standing out on their porch. There was a dragonfly, which unfortunately is not in the picture, but he was really enamored with watching it. And so that's why I'm using a dragonfly in here. I use the VersaFine. You could just about use any type of permanent ink to stamp with. And so remember, do that once that's all dry. And then I've got one off kind of here. This has got 2 pieces. It's got the body and it's got the wings, so that if you decided you did not want to use the stamp for the center, you could use the cute little embellishments that came with it. Like if you wanted to use the key for the body, or the pen nib, or this little screw and wing nut, that would make a great little embellishment, but I wanted it to look just as though it was just stamped. So here's the body of the dragonfly. So you can add that in there. We got one flying up this direction. There we go. So now we've got our stamping in there, because if I did not say in the beginning of this video, I chose paint, stencil, stamp in the tic-tac-toe grid that I chose for this challenge. The next thing that I did was take those chipboard pieces and I embossed them. First I sprayed them with both the blue and the green. I think it kind of helps with the Distress embossing powder. This one is old paper. It lightened it up. They were very dark, as you can see on the back side here. Let me move that aside. See how dark it is on the back? And it actually lightened it when I did the embossing powder on it. I went ahead and embossed these for you. I carry these daubers in my store, and sometimes I have some of the Distress embossing powder as well. Now, what's different about this than just regular embossing powder, it's not really shiny. It actually kind of just looks gritty, but puts a neat texture on there that won't come off. And so that's why I was using that, because I didn't really want something shiny on this project. And I love the daubers. I know there's other ways to put on your embossing powder, but this is so easy to just take and tap, 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 dip it in your embossing powder and heat it up with your heat gun, and you've got an easy, quick way to do something in that way. Okay, let me get back in frame here. Don't want anybody hollering at me. So this is dry, where I would go in at this point and put in those little vines and embellishments. Then I would add the flowers. Now I'm going to show you on the edge of the flowers here. Of course, there's different ways you could do it. You could have sprayed the flowers. I kind of wanted them to stand out and be more vivid, but I wanted them to kind of still blend in with stuff. So I actually took my dauber. See if I can get in there for you. I took the dauber and just went over the very edges on like one side of them and used my embossing powder, heated it up, and so I have a little bit of texture on each of the flowers, and that way it kind of helped them blend in too with the background. So you can see, maybe you can see it better on the yellow one here. And then there's those chipboard. There you go. This is the process that I use to get to this background that gave me a great thing to start with to use here on the front. So I hope that you will come play along in our challenge and check out my Artfire store for some of these products. Thank you once again for joining me. I sure appreciate it.